So today I'm going to talk about teenagers and borderline personality disorder, or not just borderline, but teenagers having personality disorders, or can they have a personality disorder? Can we diagnose them with a personality disorder? Why or why not? And I see this question a lot. It comes up a lot. People have asked me a lot. I've encountered it with parents. My primary specialty as a therapist is teens, family therapy, and parenting. So I primarily specialize in a lot of that family science and that family work and kind of determining some of those dynamics. And so I have seen many situations where parents come in, they're concerned about their kid, and because the kid appears to be exhibiting traits of a personality disorder. They heard about borderline, maybe they heard about narcissism, and they're concerned that their teen is exhibiting what appears to be a full-blown personality disorder. Full disclosure, I have seen many situations where it appears as though the teenager is actually exhibiting what appears to be, an absolute full-blown personality disorder. One case in particular recently, kiddo was really showing a full-blown, what appeared to be full-blown borderline. And actually, that particular case, obviously I can't go into a lot of detail, but this particular case actually has a really happy ending, has a really, really positive outcome. And I'm going to use that almost to kind of demonstrate why we don't diagnose teenagers with personality disorders. Now, teenagers can absolutely exhibit these behaviors. You show me a kid that is exhibiting a personality disorder, and I'll show you a kid who likely has a parent that has had one. That's more common than not. But we don't diagnose a kid, anyone under the age of 18, to have a personality disorder, as designated in the DSM-5 to be that way. And I agree with that. In fact, I almost think the age should be raised. Just because I don't believe that we really are an adult when we're 18, especially nowadays because the world is just so much more complicated than it used to be. Adult affairs and the adult world is way, way, way more complicated than it was, 150 years ago. What did you need to know 150 years ago, right? How to hitch up a horse to a wagon, how to chop wood, how to plant seeds, Not now. The adult world is just so vastly complicated, and the brain is still under construction. As we know, the brain still develops till like 25, 26 years old. And I know for me, I didn't really start to get really good insights on life and myself. I didn't really have a strong sense of who I was until well after I was like 25. I started to really question my identity and question who I was when I was in my late 20s, 27, 28 years old, and never really started to develop a firm sense of self before, by the time I got into my 30s, right? And having a sense of self is part of a personality. Part of the diagnostic criteria, specifically for borderline, is an identity disturbance. And to me, that's really significant. And maybe to other people, that just seems like, maybe a little bit vague nonsense. But having a sense of self and things that you identify as and identify with and what makes you you, this is a big thing with personality disorders, is there's not a sense of that. And teenagers are still establishing that. All teenagers. We've known even from the early days of psychology that the teen years were important to identity formation. That the teenagers... that's a time when they're figuring out who they are. And we all look back at those kids that we knew, and it's like they would change frequently. The way that they dressed, the way that they looked, the music they listened to, the people they hung out with. This is them attempting to establish an identity. And so because the brain is still under development, I really do think of teenagers as children. They're kids. They're transitioning into adulthood, and they're able to perform more adult tasks, do more mature things, be more independent, more autonomous, talk like adults, sometimes act like adults, often do adult things. Doesn't mean for a second that they are adults. Now, here's what I've noticed. when it comes to the adolescent brain, it can change really quickly. It can adapt very quickly. One of the reasons why I like working with teenagers is if you connect with them and you establish the right motivation and really good rapport, they can change quick. They can really turn it around quick. They can work through trauma. They can improve their depression, their anxiety. They can improve their behaviors really rapidly if the right combination of treatment is applied to them. And personality disorders is when the personality is just in fragments. It's like the psyche is in pieces. And kids aren't there yet. And while it appears to be, what I find more often than not is that teenagers or kids, they mimic behavior. They're more so acting. It's like a monkey see, monkey do. They're mirroring a model for behavior that they had rather than actually identifying or connecting with that set of behaviors, right? And while there are certain traits, for example, the emotional dysregulation that we see with borderline, they may have that. They can actually learn to manage their emotions really, really quickly. Again, for me, it's a matter of getting the kids to be engaged, having rapport with them, finding their motivation and building off their motivation and empowering them. They can turn it around like that. I mean, quick. It has startled me at times at how quickly the kid can make improvements. And so to me, that shows that the personality is not actually fragmented yet. It may be moving in that direction, and without the proper intervention or the proper help or the proper treatment, it will continue to the pieces will continue to drift apart, and they will have this fragmented personality, which again is what I call a personality disorder. And so we don't diagnose kids with that because that's not what it is. The personality is still actually forming instead of being in fragments. And so, like I mentioned before, one particular case really involved building rapport with a kid, and frankly, allowing this particular kid to be a little bit nasty and not reacting. Because I know that's just an attempt to push you away, try to make you angry and throw them out of therapy. It's a little bit of a borderline thing. I even had one of them deliberately sabotage therapy so that she could blame me for abandoning her. That's such a BPD thing to do. It's sad, really. But in that particular case, she learned to soothe herself. She learned to manage her thoughts, manage her emotions, be emotionally regulated. Really good outcome. Really good outcome. I was very, very happy with how that one particularly turned out. And so that being said, this is why we don't diagnose kids with personality disorder. Personality hasn't formed yet. Just as a quick side note, and I may even do a video on this, me personally, I don't even think it's me personally. The research backs this, but I have years of experience to back it up. Too often I see adults and parents kind of project certain things onto children. And the more that a parent or an adult does that, the more twisted or warped sick that I tend to think that adult is. And so you might see a really, really sick or mentally ill adult say that the kid is this and that and this and that and this and that and this and that, and when really that's more accurate about them. And so I think it is very, very dubious in general when anyone at all tries to portray children in any manner whatsoever in adult affairs. I might actually do a whole other video on that because there's too many troubling things in the world and society that involve kids. But anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Got all this crap in my throat. I don't know why. Check the clock. Yeah, I got to go to the office soon. See a couple of kids. Thanks for watching. You know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that. If you are interested in my online course for high conflict custody and divorce. My 5 mandatory rules. Make sure you check it out. It's on Udemy. It costs $20. So if that's useful for you, go check it out. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you in the next one.